Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest Anfield Index Under Pressure podcast. My name's Dan Kennett, and to join me to review the doubleheader against Brighton and Rangers, I've got the normal team. I've got Rhodesy, Barts and Brundish, and we've got an absolutely packed agenda. So we're just going to get straight into it because we can't afford any chit-chat this week. And we're going to go straight to the Brighton game and start, as always, with the Liverpool lineup and game plan. And Si, before we talk about the game plan, particularly, can you we just come off the back of an international break. We made some quite interesting team selections, and also some interesting substitutes which looked pre-planned. Can you just give us a quick reminder on how our medical department and maybe potentially our software, Zone 7 software and all the other stuff, influences these kind of decisions? Because it's safe to say a lot of these decisions didn't go down well with the fan base when the team sheet dropped.
What decisions didn't go down well with the fan base? I thought it was like it really had two changes. It wasn't such a big deal. I thought in all honesty, I missed the fan uproar because I was conference all weekend. Carvalho was the freak, wasn't it? So
yeah, Firmino and Henderson, I think maybe
it was Henderson coming back in, and Firmino starting in the 9, and for Carvalho in the front 3.
And Klopp mentioned it, didn't he? He said he couldn't pick because of the medical stuff, so he said it as well.
Oh, yeah. Is that right?
Nunes was on the bench. Diaz was on the bench, and Jota was on the bench.
So one of the if we're going to go down Zone 7, one of the algorithms will take into account. So FIFA Pro and FIFA did a big. They've started publishing 3 years ago. This advanced analytics of players' minutes, playing load, but also travel distance and time between games. And there seems to be a bunch of research in this. I'm not sure how valid it is, how the implications and consequences of it, but for sure there are some. And my belief would be that Zone 7 leverages that in a way that we've not seen much before, so that our lads... So in the past, we've seen Bobby play less than 24 hours after arriving back from the 24-hour flight.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's not going to happen anymore. So the lads that had significant distance to travel didn't play, basically. So in the past we've been through periods with regular 3 international breaks before Christmas in which Klopp picked the lads preferentially that had the most training together. Didn't really do that either, so I'm not entirely sure. I think you're probably right in that it was a load management
and the
decision matrix.
Just want to mention the double sub as well. It was Costas and Hendo off, Milner and Elliott on, and it was on the hour. So that smells pre-planned to me, right?
Well, if you look through, I think we've been doing a bunch of subs between 58 and 68, like throughout the whole season. So all of this is pre-planned,
right? But again, it was the uproar because Costas went off, even though he wasn't having a particularly good game, and Milner came on, and it was like, well, why is Milner come on? And because it's the answer is because it's pre-planned.
Yeah, and just quickly, because I don't think there's much of a story here, is that I think that all that tells us is that Robbo isn't coming back anytime soon.
Right, so we can't afford to keep pushing.
Yeah, Costas.
Yeah. Right, okay.
So I think it wasn't a judgment of Costas as playing. I think it was actually a value judgment of let's protect him a little bit.
Yeah, and I don't think the problem was with most people had a problem with Costas going off. I think, and what you say makes sense. I think it was the fact that Milner came on, but there you go. And Henderson for Elliott, and Hendo just got fit and gone back to England, hadn't he? And then but Harvey, I don't know. Does Harvey go away? Does he go with the what does he?
Harvey's with 21s, yeah.
With the 21s, okay, and Elliott came on there. All right, okay, so that's enough on that. Before we go on to Brighton Saturday, can you just remind us because I think this is relevant with what we're going to discuss with the Rangers game. Can you remind us what this season's variant of the 4-3-3 is trying to do? Because I think it's fair to say we saw exactly the same thing with it on the weekend. What is the idea of this season's variant of it 4-3-3?
We're guessing at what the idea is, but
okay. What's your educated guess at what it is trying to do?
That they're staying wide, that most staying wider and using this rotation to allow either the 8 or Trent to get inside. I think the point is to get Trent on the ball in the half space on the right hand side in the De Bruyne territory, outside the box, so he can be the playmaker, and then it's whoever is there in that zone as we break is the one that needs to get into the box. Where typically it would have been Mo cuts in and Trent would go around him, or the last season the right side 8 would go around Mo and allow Trent to be the pivot, the guy that makes the pass. This season is that Trent seems to be getting on. I'm not sure what the motivation is. I think it seems to be at best this uber creative thing that might throw off the opposition because they don't know who to mark. And Trent is good enough to play centre forward. I presume that's what it is. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not convinced.
No, we're not convinced. We haven't been all season. But so obviously we're trying to push Trent in field and trying in more advanced areas. But we at the same time we aren't really covering for him either the right 8 or whoever's playing right centre back maybe aren't covering for Trent's position as well as we could be. Is any ideas why that part of the system is not?
I think it happens sometimes.
Yes,
I think it's a legs thing. I think they're just I think they're probably there's a timing situation in how these sequences occur in a rotation of a triangle that they aren't moving in synchronicity. So when one drops, one pushes, and one goes wide, one's not dropping. So that they're not in the right space at the right time. I think they're probably, from a confidence perspective, forcing the game a little bit too much, so that they aren't in the appropriate spaces when they make a risky pass. And also, just I think probably the legs. They're just not quite as fit as they had been in the past, or they're a bit more tired, or they're just not getting back. And one of them is just old and just physically doesn't have the capacity to do it anymore either. From as high up the pitch as he's getting when he's making this starting position. And I think the problem fundamentally is that all three of them are thinking about what they should do in the final third rather than thinking on balance.
Okay.
Yeah, Klopp himself said in the Brighton game, and particularly this season, our time has not been right. We try to take risks in defending, and everyone knows that. And when the timing isn't right, you open gaps, and these gaps are very often at the back of Trent. It's not because of him, but because of other situations, and he has to track back. And yes, we're not in the perfect moment. This is what he said. So he seems to be agreeing with Si there.
Yeah. Okay. So Barts, we play in Brighton. They're fourth in the league, so they are a good team. They changed their manager. So how much did the manager change about Brighton compared to?
Well, I mean, we spoke about break for us. I mean, they hadn't played, apart from playing us before that, they hadn't played, beating Leicester 5-2. So because the players got caught up with the rail strikes, I think. So it was a long break for them. They typically with Potter seem to play like a 3-4-3. 5-3-2. Sorry. And the new tweak, I think he's gone to more of a 3-4-3. The midfield against us looked like a box rather than a flat 5 with Potter. He's also moved one of his the right wing back to a more advanced position and brought in a more defensive minded player. And just, I think, rejigged the midfield. So you've got 2 attacking in front of 2 sitters. One of them is it Cancilio, the lad that we've looked at?
Caicedo, yeah.
Yeah, so he's in there, marauding and creating. So it seems to be, they've gone for if you play a box, you're looking to dominate the middle of the park exactly and not allow anything through that. You protect the classic zone 14, and you also allows you to get a very easy platform. It can make you narrow, but the way he's operated on the breaks, so when as you saw the weekends, as soon as they got the ball, they whipped it out to the right wing, solid march to a wide player. He pinged it, literally switched it to the left wing to Trossard, or Welbeck, who'd spun out on a rotation. And then they played a one-touch into the driving midfielder, I can't remember the name at the moment, who'd played then another one-touch pass to Trossard, who'd made the run inside. So it was very quick, incisive play, but it was stretching at pace. That's it, McAllister. So they had this controlled element, won it, went wide very quickly, switched it wide again, inside quickly, and then in the box. And it was the same pattern you saw. They made that play 3 or 4 times in that opening 20 minutes. And I would say that is a tweak from Potter. Potter did various tactics, but I don't remember recollecting being that direct and breaking as quickly as this guy did. But if you read some of the news press about the recruitment of this manager, like they do with their players, apparently they looked at the analytics of what this guy's performance as a manager and match it up with what Potter had been doing and the squad they had to try and make sure they made the best appointment for the squad and the players they had available.
Absolutely. I mean, it's Tony Bloom, though, isn't it?
I know, and it's not a shock, obviously, but I found it fascinating to hear him talk about that and say, this is what we've done and this is why we chose this guy. And it was like, okay, this could be, and you always want them to succeed because we're data guys, right? But so it'd be interesting to see how it goes on. But for me, there wasn't a lot of change. The back three still the same back three. He made one of the wing backs more defensive and pushed the guy who was playing there further forward, and then made them, when they're one possession, switch, aggressively go wide and switch it quickly and make quick incisive passes around it.
So, I mean, his company, which made him famous, and Star Lizards, is basically a sports betting company, isn't it? And
exactly, yeah.
So they have so much data right there. Yeah. So it makes you why wouldn't how he runs his club be run on exactly the same principles?
Yeah,
I mean, Brighton and Brentford are the 2 best run clubs in the country. When you could say we probably had that mantle up until fairly recently, but I don't think Brighton and Brentford are probably the 2 best run clubs in the country.
In terms of overachievement, by
getting everything, getting every last little ringing, every little last advantage at you, what you can.
I think that's harsh, Darth. I think it's much easier to stay in the league than it is to battle the greatest team of all time.
Yeah. But what I'm just saying is, I don't think we're at the level we were, say, a year, 18 months ago. I think we have fallen back slightly. I don't think it's you're
talking more of how you run it, aren't you? The business,
the football operation,
rather than the football operation. Rather than on the pitch stuff. Yeah. No. I think you're right. I think pound for pound, probably that'd be interesting. I don't know. Tompkins has probably got a piece on that, actually looking at pound for pound what you get for pointing that. But yeah, Brighton to be fourth for wherever they are now is, for their media resources that they've put in, is a good testament to the process they have, surely.
Yeah, I think Paul himself agrees with both of you. I think he says our recruitment's been immense in terms of trying to keep up with Man City and trying to be competitive alongside the vast amounts that they've spent and invested, but also the overachievement and the relative squad values of Brighton and Brentford compared to their positions in the league is also off the scale. And if they carry on doing it, and they seem to be, and having a continuity manager based on data is your best chance of doing that, in my opinion. You know what? Some teams who finish 5th or 6th and overachieve and then appoint a new guy seem to get opposite styles of managers with a squad that they've built over 3 years.
Well,
exactly. Yeah.
Look at Leicester. Look at Leicester. They had 2.5 years outstanding recruitment, and then they appoint Brendan, and they gradually fall away over 2.5 year cycle, don't they?
So look at Watford, look at Everton, all doing the same thing. But interesting, I was chatting to a person today that will remain nameless, but he went for a job at Brentford and decided not to go for it. But he said they haven't got an academy there, so they put all their resources into first team to try and be as.
That was one of Benham's first. I remember reading about this before we played him. That was one of Benham's first decisions.
Exactly, try and pull the resources to the first team, and they go around. But he then also said the academy that impressed him the most in the last year, because he's been around talking to a few of them, is Brighton, and the way they resource the academy and the way they use data analytics at that level, he thought was something he hadn't seen, and he's been around at all the top clubs. He said they're looking after the youth and making sure that production line is supplying the club for years to come, in his opinion.
Yeah. Okay, that's really interesting. Rhodesy, let's talk about the match summary for Brighton then, please.
Yeah, Joyce. I've done some grim match summaries this season. Again, you'll see your base numbers: 3 times as many shots as them, 15-6. Twice as many penalty box touches, 44-22. We're seem to be keeping up a 45 penalty box touch average this season, which is usually very impressive and what you want. 7 shots on target to 6. But the key is, it's always the key, the quality of chance. Brighton unbelievably had 6 shots in the box, 6 shots on target and 6 big chances, which is incredible. But we did have 5 big chances, and B's posted a stat, which is unbelievable, really. In the last 1,600 games, or since the summer of 2018, there's only been 3 matches that saw both teams have 5 or more big chances. Unfortunately, one of them was another 3-3 draw, and that was us against Brentford last season. It's interesting that 2 analytical sides have gone toe-to-toe with us, and in very different ways. Because all Brighton, we said in the preview that they weren't much of a threat from set pieces. They did all theirs in open play, whereas Brentford did all theirs from set pieces. So we got twice in 2 different ways by 2 analytical teams, which doesn't help. This was a weird game state thing as well, because obviously they had 4 big chances in the first 17 minutes, which is a worse ratio of time to big chance than the Napoli game, which is incredible considering they had 9. But had they carried on at that same rate, they could have ended up with something like 12 big chances. Thankfully, we turned it around a bit. We started to create our own, and we had 5 in the end. So the non-penalty XG finished 2.1 to 1.9. Huge disagreement in the models, Dan. StatsBomb had it at 1.6 all. 538 had it 3-2 in our favour. And then Cayley had it about 2 each. So it was, I think, the fact that the average gives it as about a 2-2 draw is kind of fair. We will come on to the individual big chances, but yeah, the amount we conceded in this game takes us now to having conceded more big chances than Bournemouth, more big chances than Everton, Villa, West Ham, and Wolves. Now, Wolves have only conceded 8, but they don't create anything in their games. But the fact we've now conceded more big chances than Bournemouth and the same amount as Southampton in 17 is quite indicative of how our season's gone, isn't it?
I've got a little bit on this from a big chance perspective. So I looked in the last, basically since Mo signed. So how long this team has existed as in this kind of guise, right across the league, as a percentage of total shots, what are big chances? So if there are 10 shots and 3 of them are big chances, that's 30% of all shots happen to be big chances. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So across the last 6 seasons, Liverpool sadly have finished worst in the league 3 times, which is weird. Obviously, the 17-18 where we were open and we had Mane and Mo and Bobby flying, but we were also quite open.
A lot of that was also the first half of the season. Which was we had a dreadful start defensively.
It's absolutely that. Then we nailed down. So at one point that season, we were 25. At Christmas that season, we were 25% of all shots were big chances.
Yeah, which is a bit like now.
Yeah.
But it finished at 29. It finished that season at 19.2, which led the league after we signed Virgil. Then we signed the Virgil and Ali came in, and Fab 13% that season to dominate the league. 1920, it was 18%. Then we had the shit show of 2021, which was the highest up to this point of 24.5. That topped the league again. Then last season, back down to a nice little 16%, which is fairly typical of the uber attacking sides in the league. So City are generally around. City have an average of 16% over the last 6 years. And then we're currently at 28.8% of all shots are big chances.
Yeah. I just say, across the league, last 3 seasons, it's fairly static. It is the league average is 16% of shots are classified as big chances.
Yeah.
And it's basically, and of all the goals that are scored in the league, it's pretty much static over the last 4 seasons. It's 56% of the goals come from 16% of the shots. That's the rule of thumb in the last 3 to 4 years of the Premier League. Pretty consistent.
There was a study I saw at the weekend that in the last 10 years, 87% of goals have come from what they've decided now FIFA have as the golden zone, which is between the post to the penalty spot, which makes sense. And that's where we keep giving up these bloody big chances. We're letting people right through the middle of our defence.
That's like Brighton, isn't it?
Brighton was exactly this.
Yeah.
Can I just say, out of the top 6, do you know who's the lowest percent over the last 6 years? Or the best ratio?
Tottenham.
Spurs by miles. Do you know what their current ratio is?
This season, it's about 6, isn't it?
6%.
Yeah,
6.
Yeah.
We're at 29 and they're at 6.
Conte ball for you.
But it's not just Conte. Last season was 9.
Yeah, fair enough.
Where we've had the worst record 3 times, they've had the best record 4. They just don't. They've created a system that just doesn't give up big chances. They block up the middle, and if you get chances against them, you get chances against them.
But the backlash is starting now. The Conte backlash is starting because people are saying they've watched Spurs now under him play enough, and they know what to do.
Maybe.
And so, there was a lot of unhappiness about the Frankfurt game, for example, yesterday.
That 0-0, wasn't it? Was that 0-0? Yeah.
Spurs fans will always whine. Chelsea, incidentally, Chelsea fans are currently they're having a 25% season. So
their defense has been terrible this season.
Yeah.
Well, the worst in terms of for this game, it was 0.32 per chance, Dan, shot quality for the six chances that they had. The worst we've had is 0.38 against Arsenal in 1920, but they only had 3 shots.
Yeah.
So that's a bit different. Swansea had 8 shots against us, and all of them were worth 33% for each shot in 16-17. And the only other one above 6 that was the Brighton game was Man City had 8 shots against us, all at big chance value of 0.32. So this was the roundabout the worst, along with that Man City and the Swansea one. But Swansea 16-17 was pretty much just after Klopp come in, wasn't it?
When was the City game, Rhodesy?
The City game was 2021, the shit show, yeah.
That was after winning the league. Oh, no, sorry. Which one?
Oh, no, COVID.
4-1 COVID.
Oh, the home game with Alisson's two defensive errors, that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Nightmare. Right, okay. So you mentioned it, Rhodesy. The first 20 minutes was statistically worse than Napoli. Because that was going to be my question. I mean, to everybody, personally, my point of view, this was worse than Napoli because the Napoli game, it was in the middle of a big run of games. This one, we basically just had a month off. And people can say the international break happened and players went away, but the management, the backroom team, all the brains trusts were there. They had a month, unexpected month, to look at all the things that have been happening in the season and diagnose things and put plans in place to fix things. They did, and what we saw was exactly the same thing. Yeah. And in fact, it was largely worse than it was like taking the system failed to an unprecedented level, because Brighton were, I don't think it's fair to say Brighton aren't as good a team as Napoli. Well, they are a good team.
Napoli are putting up arguably some of the best numbers in Europe.
Yeah, Napoli are top of the league in Italy at the moment, aren't they, as well, right? So they just beat Ajax 6-1.
Big chances a game in Champions League this season.
Yeah. But I think it was worse because of that reason, Barts. What do you think?
I agree with you. I do think it was worse, but I think we touched on it. Brighton are very good at analytics. I think they've targeted the area, whereas I think Napoli, they went with the general approach of sucking us in and then breaking the press and scored a variety of goals. Whereas Brighton, it seemed to be they target specific things, and it just came off.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I thought that Brighton was worse for that reason, because it was a systematically they exploited a massive area in our system and over again, and we still didn't react in the game. Whereas Napoli was just an absolute across the board of performance. You know what I mean? There was nothing that came out of that. Whereas Brighton, at least in the Brighton game, we can look at the forwards and say, well, there was some good play there, and we got 3 goals back and we recovered. But yeah, the Brighton was just, it just struck me after the second time that they created a big chance of why aren't we changing? I just couldn't understand why we were still making the same thing. Why? I'm not picking on Henderson this time, but it does come that side. Why is he still going high at a time when we're unstable? We haven't got stability. Sit there and protect Trent to just get through this period of time. Because that first 20 minutes, like we've said many times this season, going behind early creates you're on the back foot for the entire game.
Yeah,
one down. Let's just try and stabilise, not automatically go all guns blazing trying to do it, and then they win a game. They've got to go. Do you know what I mean? It was just this big period of change and instability was the shocking part for me, that we just didn't react, and we could have been 4 down.
Yeah. Was it the thing that is the narrative playing behind Trent? I didn't see that at all.
Well, they kept switching it into that area.
Well, they were switching down the middle.
They switched it from right to left.
Well, I asked Gags about this because Gags collected the pressing on this one, and he basically said that his words were that we overcommitted players, and the structure of the press was different to previous years, because previously we'd press 1 or 2 players, and then there would be a second wave to come up. There wasn't waves. It was just a load of players going in for that first press together. And he said it really worried him, and because he said this is not. The quality of the press was nowhere near the level of what it's been for so much of the Klopp era.
It wasn't. Yeah, they weren't waiting for a specific moment for triggers. Nah. But they also, I don't think it was the press that cost us problems. They had the ball. They were creating from inside our half.
Yeah, in that first chance, the first goal, Tsimikas fails to close down the cross. It's a poor clearing header from Trent. It's even worse by Henderson, who kind of tries to shield the ball away, and then it ends up at their player's foot. So that's the worst thing he could do. Virgil commits and tries to get tight, but he's taken out of the game, and that leaves Trent, who's just turned in the box, and the guy finishes it. That seems to me both systemic and individual errors.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah. I mean, that wasn't caused by us being massively committed upfield. That one, that was just bad defending, wasn't it?
The first 20 minutes, all of it was bad. It was just bad individual errors, bad mental errors, bad choice making all the time.
Mm.
And it was really the first 20 that killed us, wasn't it?
Yeah, because we were fine the rest of the game. I say fine in inverted commas, if you know what I mean.
They work it down our left for the second big chance. It's Solly March. Welbeck stood with Trent and Matip either side of him with a clear header 6 yards out.
But he ran past Jordan Henderson. Henderson shouted. He was already in the box. He shouted to mark somebody. It was less than a second later that he got the header. Like, who's supposed to? They both had guys. So there were 2 attackers already in the box. If he'd have run with the guy he was supposed to be tracking,
it doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah. And
he's there yelling at people, and they already were marking. They were already, engaged. Bad choices.
Also before that as well, Thiago presses really high. which means Fab's got pulled across, which Hendo gets pulled across. So do you know what I mean? It's that we've got a goal down, and one of our eights is pressing up right in their final third. It's literally minutes later. That's what I'm saying. I think Si's saying the same. It's just poor decision making. At times, we really don't need poor decision making. Just see out the next 5 minutes. Don't go 2 down.
And just after the second big chance, there was the one that Carragher did on Monday Night Football, which resulted in a 5-on-2 break, and it didn't actually somehow it didn't result in a shot. It was just a 5-on-2 break because Carragher did a freeze frame, and our front four, he said, was Salah on the right, Trent in the centre forward position, Henderson to his left, and then Tsimikas. That was the front four. And then Thiago and Fab had put right sucked over to the left wing channel almost, and the entire centre and right of the pitch was open. And then they just 3 seconds later they had a 5-on-2.
Yeah, and Alisson does Alisson. He does what he does, doesn't he? So he saves it. Is that the way he saves it? I think
no. It was just there was what I think it went to Welbeck and it didn't get a shot out of it. Right. But then just after that was in the third big chance. Rhodesy, do you want to do that one?
The third big chance is Trossard, where it's matched to Welbeck straight through our defence, and he ends up cutting it back to Trossard, who shot his saves point blank again, 1-versus-1 by Alisson. Another big chance, third big chance.
Is that Rhodesy? Is that the one where Ali throws it to Thiago, who gives it away?
Initially, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. That's a poor decision. Again, a poor decision. We've just got done 5-on-2.
Yeah.
Let's calm it down. And he chucks it out to Thiago, gives it away, and we're straight away back on the back foot. And
so
get a chance.
There should have been someone after the first goal saying, right, lads, let's have 10, 15 minutes here where we just keep the ball. We don't SI, sit back. We're just going to keep it. We're going to take no risks. Let's sort this out.
Yeah.
Has that ever been?
Yeah, we have. We used to control games.
When we 1-0 down, I don't.
Oh, maybe not. Maybe not. But I still don't think we do.
Way to do it.
I still don't think we do it that correct. What we're doing now is complete like mad panic. I think whenever we've gone to chase a game, there's been a system, a structure to it. This is just, for me, the Brighton game was mad panic.
Yeah, panic always ends up in.
Yeah, but Rhodesy,
doesn't it?
But Rhodesy, for 4 years, we've barely gone behind in matches.
Well, I absolutely agree.
That's because the game plan was all there about control, and it was the importance of getting that first goal. And we barely lost any games, and we barely spent any time losing it in games.
Well, we had like 220 minutes behind across the whole season. We've had that in the first 6-7 games.
Yeah. Just found Gags' notes. I just want to read these from there. So he said, there was lots of effort from Liverpool in the press, but Brighton passed around us easily at times. It may not seem like they were press resistant from the stats, but their ability to pass around and then move forward via players with no pressure was unreal. They were willing to go back or sideways because we were throwing men at the player in possession and leaving gaps around. Unfortunately, we don't record a fail in these instances. They were very calm. A couple of times they got caught, but they weren't punished, and they remained calm, and they just picked us off. So it basically, it sounds very much like when we typically play a very good possession team like Man City, and they're not afraid to take the press and pass sideways and go back and build up round and eventually find a gap. So,
yeah, they were quick passing, one touch. I thought it was good, it was impressive.
If they know where to pass and at what time, like they can be autonomic, that it's much quicker for them to pass with the ball than it is for us to react, because we're always second guessing. If you look at their second goal, the opposite of what happened with Hendo, not tracking a runner, he instead dropped in deep to block off one runner who was actually already marked, and left the only lad that was in a midfield space, and he's the one that scored in the end. So it's just a bit of bad luck, but it's also a consequence of individual mistake making.
Yeah.
Do I do this or do I do this? And because it's not exactly what they're used to, there's constant making a bad choice here, I'm making another bad choice here, and it's the house of cards has fallen down.
I think, Dan, what you're saying there with Gags' pressing, because I was looking at the pressing stuff, and I think you even touched on it in the group. It looks virtually, from afar, it looks virtually identical to the Ajax game. The numbers, that wall across their third, the heat maps, and I was thinking, oh, so what the fuck was so wrong with it? But then if you dig deeper, like you're saying, there wasn't anywhere near the amount of possession wins.
No,
just when you get the ball back and then can attack them like we did with Ajax, and it was just exactly what Gags was saying. Lots of pushbacks. So the efficiency wasn't down because we're pushing them back.
Yeah.
We're in change, so we're pushing them back. But it's like with the Napoli game, they want us to do that as well. Because of that, what Si's saying, the automatic nature of the way they're passing. So it's just about picking out the right data point in the present analysis to find out what the issue was with them, and that's what it was. On top of what Barts and Si are saying about the panic and the individual errors and the bad decision making, it was just one of the worst shit shows of 20 minutes.
So let's talk about while we're doing them, let's talk about the last two Brighton big chances, which came at 3-2 down. Who wants to go on the fifth and sixth one? Rhodesy, do you want to lead us in?
The fifth
was a Welbeck header.
Welbeck is the Welbeck header. This is down. There was a couple of these to finish their big chances off. It was a Welbeck header, but it came from Trent being passed around. I'm not sure this was much.
Brian had the ball for about a minute. In the lead to this one.
The ball, yeah.
Recycled it really well.
And this was more. I thought this was a good play by them, just making enough space to get that Estupinian on the sat for the cross. Estupinian. But again, he gets past Trent to get the cross in, but Welbeck gets in between Matip and Van Dijk.
He did, but he didn't get in between Matip and Van Dijk. Van Dijk was marking him from the whole time. He had him outside the box. He let him run past him.
Yeah,
it was purely effort.
Yeah,
Trent was 2v1 as well.
Yeah, what can you do? You can't
do anything.
You can't mark
that's
two
what
players.
Good possession structure makes, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's what you're doing it for.
Yeah, but then you'd hope that your midfielder in front would help out with a 2v1. Is this the one that Mo fails to press the left back? And then and then it gets played down the side. I'm not saying that's the fault, but there was then that leaves the Trent completely isolated 2v1, and that's where you want someone to come and help him out, and they don't.
Well, Harvey was there.
It was one.
Oh yeah, true.
It was 1 minute 19 seconds the Brighton possession. So I think you've got to give them some credit for that. And eventually they found a space, but I agree about the Van Dijk assessment. I think if Van Dijk had really wanted to, he
stopped it.
Yeah, he would challenge Welbeck for that. So, Si, do you want to do the sixth one then? Talk while we're piling onto Virgil.
Pile onto Virgil. So is the sixth one their actual goal?
Yeah.
All three of their goals came from us making possession loss mistakes, and he just wafted his foot. Like, the ball came right across the box. I don't understand. It's like I often talk about bad goalies as having hologram hands. Just clear the damn ball, and he just kind of, I don't know. He was half stuck between bringing it down, or I don't know what he was doing. He just completely missed the ball by about a foot. It nutmegged him from 15 yards away.
Yeah.
And we talk about structures all you like, but the structure is your centre back should be in line with the front post, about the edge of the 6-yard box. He was. The ball got crossed, knee height. He just missed it.
Yeah, it was just an error. I think it was a 1 in 1,000 error. We see him balls come in from the left wing all the time. We see him 3 or 4 times a game. Van Dijk just volleys it out straight out, clears the danger straight away on the volley. Yeah,
clear it to where it came from. That's what he should have done.
Exactly, and he does. Rhodesy, this reminded me of is that when an absolutely elite batsman just leaves a gap between bat and pad and he gets clean bowled. It's just what did he do? It was just an absolute. It's just a brain fart, isn't it?
Yeah. But you normally expect your teammate to back you. Like, sense danger, like Milner's in no man's land.
How on earth you can't dig him out for that, Barts? He was right. No. You can't expect anybody to expect Virgil van Dijk not to kick that ball.
Fair enough. I just think I don't know, maybe supporting your team. I don't know. Yes, Virgil should have cleaned it. I'm not saying that it's not his fault, but there are other players who are leaving their players that are running.
Fortunately, Dan, it reminded me of Dejan Lovren. That's what he used to do all the time.
Yeah,
That's
I was going to
exactly what I was
say,
gonna say.
Yeah, you remind me a lot for a moment, that did.
So
And that's the only time I've ever thought that about it.
do we think this was Virgil's worst ever game for Liverpool?
Honestly, I think he's probably had 10 of them since we won the league. He had a couple of stinkers straight after we won the league.
And Arsenal-
but that doesn't
Arsenal-
count. That really
Both
doesn't count. That doesn't
awful
count
for
in my
2
book at all.
months.
Yeah, that doesn't count in my book.
He's had a few this season.
I would say he's had 10 Virgil van Dijk games since we won the league.
I can remember a couple, maybe 3 when we'd won the league. So get down to 7, maybe a couple last season in the first half of the season, and then a couple this season, maybe 3.
Poor performances, yeah.
But no, I don't think as bad as this one, because I'd expect Virgil to get control of the defence. I've never seen our defence play as bad as it.
No, is this as bad as Napoli?
Not only control the defence, control the 2 people in front of him.
But the thing is, Virgil actually had quite a decent individual performance against Napoli.
Yeah, weirdly.
Yeah, exactly.
Weirdly.
So that's what I mean.
No, he did have one terrible moment in that game.
Yeah, but only one. That's what I mean.
That was the first goal. That kind of like things happen because that happens when you're Goliath, the god of a defender, makes a stupid mistake. It sends it's. I don't think it's unreasonable to send you spinning a little bit for a while.
Yeah.
If Ali throws one in, people are going to reel.
I mean, that's fair. It's fair. All I'm saying, Si, is I thought this was his worst ever game for Liverpool.
I think you might be right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's quite fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, then, before we talk about tipping points, to what extent? Oh no, before we do that. Let's do the distance and sprints side quickly. Recurring theme all season: we've lost the run in, we've lost the sprint in. Was it the same against Brighton?
We won the run-in, lost the sprinting, and lost the high speed.
So not great.
No, again,
Considering
not
it was
great.
54-46 possession game. So you'd expect us in those kind of games to have a lot more than the Oppo, wouldn't you?
I would, yeah. And,
Traditionally.
yes, and it wasn't high numbers either way. So I just think we've got an effort issue. I really do. I don't like to. We've talked about this many times. I know I don't like to question the integrity of our footballers. I think when you are on a roll, when we don't like to talk about momentum, but when you're winning and things are working the way they're going, you're going to run that extra mile. You're going to give that extra meter because because if you don't, you might lose this one perfect run or this goal that might cost you the league. At this point, we're not there. We're not right on the edge of a knife edge this way. Like, it's again another one. That's what it feels like, and you just don't have that zest.
So they've given in, basically.
I think there's a little bit of that. Yeah, I think they're a little bit defeated. I think we start games even a little bit defeatist.
Okay. So, to what extent we turned it around? We've gone from 2-0 to 3-2. To what extent did we improve as a team by making changes, whatever, tweaks, adjustments? Or to what extent was it that we've just got some really good players and really good attackers? Barts, where do you stand? Or Barts and then Rhodesy, quickly.
In this game, turn it around, or do you mean...
in this game? What did you see? Anything we did, or did you just think it's just the fact that we've actually got some really good forwards, so we can create chances and we took them, or did you think we actually?
Well, if you look at I know we don't like pass networks but the EPV one.
Like yours.
Yeah, Henderson's deeper in the second half. Henderson, Thiago, and Fab are a bit more structured in the second half compared to the first. Trent's not as far forward. The array of attackers are in roughly the same spot. Nunes takes like the Salah position, Firmino and Jota. So for me, there's a bit more structure in the second half. I thought there was a little bit more disciplined. I mean, that's not hard because the first half wasn't any discipline. And I thought there was a bit more. This is unmeasurable, but the intent, the quality of our passing was better in the second half. I think the goal before half time helped. And then we came out, got the second one 2-2, and then there was periods. I don't know whether you've seen the graph I did on the phases of touches and passes, but there's waves that occur in sort of 5-10 minute periods where it peaks and then we score, or we have a shot and it peaks. And our peaks, it was taking us less time to get a peak in the second half, which to me suggests that we were passing and creating more touches and getting the shots off in a shorter period of time. So we tried to do that. But then at 3-2, the peaks go to a longer period, go back to nearly 15-minute periods. And that's where I think Brighton had those chances toward the end. And as we know, they got the equaliser. So I think it was improved, but I don't think that was difficult. Bearing in mind, we just said our best defender probably ever has had the worst game ever. To then come out and improve second half, that's not much of a ceiling to go from, or a floor to go from even. But I do think there's evidence just that we were passing it quicker and having more touches in shorter periods to create those shots, which inevitably led.
So you think we went to a flatter midfield three in the second half, which helped?
From looking at the EPB, yes, I think we went to a slightly flatter. There isn't that. Henderson is not as far advanced on the pass maps as he was in the first half.
He's not level with the centre forwards.
No, he's not. They're in. So Fab is still slightly deeper, but Thiago and Henderson are next to each other, and the connections are back. If you know what I mean. So in the first half, there is literally, bearing in mind that a line has to be 4+ between a pair, right? There's no line between Fab and Henderson. There's no line between Matip and Trent. Do you know what I mean? There's connections missing all over the place. Whereas in the second half, there is clear lines between those connections on each of our midfield players and each of our fullbacks and each of our centre halves, which, as we know, is the foundation of how we build our play.
Yeah. Rhodesy, were you going to come in on this one?
Yeah, I thought, well, if we consider the fact that we'd conceded 4 big chances and we were 2-0 down, and then from the 30th minute to the 57th, 58th minute, we have 5 ourselves.
Yeah.
So that is a comeback. That is a lot of XG, depending on which model you're looking at. There's 2 contributions in terms of assists from Henderson, but from a different zone. There's also, as you said, Dan, some brilliant attacking play. I think for the
Salah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Salah. I think for he does so well to get into that position and react to that deflected ball in the box for our first big chance. It's saved brilliantly, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think the 45 minutes either side of half time, Salah was just unbelievable. Some of his play.
Yeah, brilliant. Assists. Bobby, even though it goes down as a big chance himself, so the actual assist went down as a big chance, which is random. But the goal, Bobby's goal on 54 minutes is a superb goal.
Yes,
a bit of composure from Fabinho.
That looked like peak Bobby. That finish.
I mean, it's the composure from Fabinho on the edge of our box. A lovely pass from Henderson.
Oh yeah, it was a move. Yeah,
perfectly timed pass to Diaz. Diaz does what he does best. It comes inside, dribbles at pace, gives it to Bobby. Bobby sells him the eyes and finishes with composure. That's, that could have easily been Mane doing the Diaz role. It could have been Fabinho doing the Henderson role. It could have been Van Dijk heading it down to Henderson. It could have been a cross of players there doing those things, because we've seen us do those things really well. And then there's a header from Bobby on the 58th minute, and then the subs come down, and it all goes wrong again.
Oh well, let's give Brighton some credit, right? Because I mean they concede an unlucky. I mean, to be honest, the keeper is atrocious. I mean, how the keeper doesn't get an error for this, I'll never know, right? Yeah, how Opta can give an error for that. But, they were unlucky. But they react to that, and they bring on the Japanese lad. He was absolutely fantastic, Rhodesy.
Yeah, high left, wide left. Was that
Mitoma?
Yeah. Great player.
He was.
Yeah, they take off Gross, they bring on him, and they bring on Lallana, take off Estepinian, who's the left back, and they bring on a way more. Do they change shape when Lallana comes on, Barts? Do they go...
They kind of rotate
kind of
down the left a bit more than what they were doing with. I think it was Welbeck pushing onto that side, and
it's not. It's still. I mean, the principles are still the same for me. The shapes, kind of irrelevant. They were still doing the same thing. Just sport what Rhodesy was saying. The two. I do a dot thing as well, where I do look at 15-minute periods and how much shots and passes and how much XG we create, and the two the highest XG periods, 15-minute periods, for 31 to 45 and 46 to 60. So that's it. Spots on what Rhodesy was saying. That was our golden period of creating XG.
Okay. So what we're saying in answer to my question, we're saying a bit of both. Our good attacking players played really well for quite a lot of this game, and we did make some tweaks as well. Si, anything you want to chip in on this before we move on?
Nope, you nailed it.
Okay. Rhodesy and Barts, do we want to have a quick... Rhodesy, do you want to have a quick rant about Opta? Technical point.
No, I'm building up my evidence against Opta.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's get some more evidence. We've got a World Cup break coming up, you know.
You did some superb work on the big chances, Dan. I appreciate that. I'm logging all our individual shot values, of course, particularly. But there's some just one random one from this game. The Bobby Firmino goal. Opta had it at 5% XG shot value and awarded a big chance. But then their awarding of a big chance then has a secondary effect on the models of understat and info goal. So they then award a 28% and a 30% chance. You see my issue? This is the one big data collector who's deciding.
No, actually, Infogol don't use. When Mark Taylor did say that they don't use big chance now as an input,
but he still had a similar value to understat. So
you see, right? This is the one thing I did want to say on this one, right? So remember that Opta's XG value now is assigned using the Optavision, which is the fixed cameras around the pitch now. So they're the only data provider using tracking data, and obviously, when you see the proximity of the defender to Bobby, right, you can see that, you know, he's literally right on top. And it's only the fact that Bobby lifts it that makes it go in. Because if you look the camera technology looks how close the defender is to Bobby's boot, then you could see why it's only a 5% chance. But at the same time, you can see why why Infogol give it.
I understand,
because you think about it.
The collector awards a big chance.
Yeah. So what it tells me is that potentially the Optavision doesn't necessarily look at anything outside the immediate corner, because they should know that the keeper wasn't in his position, was he? It was effectively an open goal if Bobby lifted it, which he did.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying, Darth. I think it's just collect a bit more data. The thing that annoyed me that you said is they've retrofitted the new model on all the old data. I can't for
no, I don't think they have. That's why I don't think they have gone back. I think last season's values are still last season's values.
Right,
I don't think they've gone back and upgraded everything.
Okay, because that would really. I feel like, what are you doing?
So if they're doing that, what about Trossard's his goal, his second goal, which they were up to award a 9% chance, but understat 31 and info goal of 23 because there's no players in between him. It's just Alisson.
I would say that one, they said on Match of the Day, Alisson will be disappointed there but I thought when he hit it so hard, it was past him, right? But if you look at where Alisson was positioned and the position of Alisson's hand, to be honest, you'd expect him to save a shot from that position, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Trossard absolutely laced it, right?
Yeah.
But were you a little bit disappointed that Ali didn't actually...
Considering how good a game he had, I did note that. I thought I would have expected Alisson to save it.
I've got that as well.
He also gets a hand on the third goal, but there's absolutely no blaming of Alisson in any of this, because if you
no.
No.
I mean, Alisson is our undisputed player of the season. Undisputed.
I think it's just because we're used to him doing superhuman stuff at the moment this season, because he's had to. I think I've written down, I thought Ali could do better, but that's in the pretense that of what he's been doing all season. A normal keeper would get beaten from there because he just hits it so quickly across him. Do you know what I mean? So the fact that he gets a hand to the 3-3 one is testament to Ali's ability. Do you know what I mean? He's hit that into the roof of the net. A normal keeper doesn't get a hand to it.
I'm not sure whether I agree. I think info goals. The second Trossard goal. Was the lowest chance on the info goal model, right? And it was 23%. I don't think that. I think that's too high though for me. I don't. What would you say from there, Barts? About 1 in 6, maybe 1 in 7.
Yeah, I think the angle is quite wide. He's wide, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It was only because he laced it.
It's the one. Where's the shot?
He went into the side netting inside the far post. It didn't go into the back of the net. It went to the side of the net, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great shot. I mean, you've got to give credit to his ability to do that. But
that's post shot XG, not XG.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the
27.
This is the widest one. Chance. This is their widest shot, isn't it? All the other shots are in the width of the 6-yard box.
Yeah, this is outside the
outside the width.
Yeah.
So I think that's a bit high, but
yeah. But it's probably in between Opta's 9% and Info's 23%.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, good stuff. Let's get on to the Rangers.
Right. Okay. So, Si, we went into this match, a lot of hand wringing, a lot of press attention, a lot of criticism of Trent. It seemed to be open season on Trent. It seemed to be everybody piling on left, right, and centre. But so what extent did we reach a tipping point in that Brighton game? And can you put yourself in the LFC backroom team and decide on what because we made changes. We made big changes, right, for this match.
Yeah, we couldn't get any worse. We're down to we're a 72-point team. This is shit. Something's got to change. We aren't doing anything to control games. They had to change it, and I think that the idea is to get the right spacing across the wide areas, not actually. So we talk about relationships throughout the pitch, right? So you talk about the little triangle between Trent and Hendo and Mo, or originally between Robbo and Ginny and Mane on the other side, and how they work. So they will have triangles of area that they're supposed to control with or without possession on the ball. And I think Hendo's area used to be a triangle with the pinnacle towards our own goal and the wide base towards the opposition's goal. And I think his legs have prevented that happening now. So if he's high up the pitch, he can't get back into the spaces that he needs to be to block passing lanes. I don't even think it's about tracking. I think it's about blocking passing lanes. So alongside how Harvey is he just doesn't naturally make good defensive decisions. I think they've had to rethink how the midfield help to counteract the width of our attack and where and how that they maneuver around the pitch. So I think we can create a different pressing pattern from having the wide players with one of the front attackers there to create the edge of how to pass, how to press towards the touchline, which creates that funnel for the midfield to then block. But the midfield, one of which is going to be Thiago, and one of which is going to be Hendo from the other side, or Fab, or whoever it is. It creates a much more deliberate structure and slightly less fluid structure, and I think it reduces the threshold, the area, the volume of area that they need to cover for each player. So he's aware we no longer have the most athletic team on the planet, which I think at different moments in the last 5 years I think we've had, and I think that this is a safer way to get most of the things he wants from a pressing side, if any of that rambling made sense.
So before he joined us, Jurgen Klopp played 4-2-3-1 for the majority of his management career. Yeah. Did you see a difference between the way we did our version of 4-2-3-1 or 4-4-2 versus Dortmund?
It's weird how we talk of 2-3-1 all the time, and he always talks of 4-4-2.
Right.
Yeah, the numbers are FIFA numbers. It's a matter of what you do when you're on the pitch in different.
So Dortmund had
four phases of the game.
Dortmund always had a 10. They always had Kagawa, Royce, and who was the lad who went to Bayern? Götze. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah.
So they often played an actual player who you would say was a 10, right? So
Royce, but all three did completely different jobs.
Right. So
I would go as far as saying that's actually a really good example, because the 10 would in each of those cases, they create different demands of the players around them and of the structure of the pitch.
Actually, Royce was never the 10. He was wide, wasn't he? Sorry.
Yeah, Goetze was the 10. Royce
it was Goetze and Kagawa. Yeah.
Yeah. So they excel. The three of those, I think Royce plays 10 occasionally now. I think that they excel in different phases of the four phases of the game. And then so you have to do different things when it's not in the phase that they excel in. And you can do Jota in that kind of role if you want to, but he will only excel in negative transition. He's the one that will go. He is probably the best player that we could have to go and press the ball, to go and counter press the ball in the first 2 seconds.
Okay. So our weakness all season has been negative transition. There's not been too many problems with the attack. So do you think this was entirely to help us improve in negative transition?
Yes, in both phases of negative transition. In the counter press, I think it hugely helps us in the counter press, but I think more than anything, it helps us negate the seconds 3 to 7 after you lose possession.
Okay, just a quick note to the listeners. I'm so fortunately we're doing this the day after. We haven't got the pressing yet. We will put that in the. We'll do a separate analysis. Me and Rhodesy will do it in the Discord chat for subscribers later. Barts, anything you want to say on the reaction to Brighton and the changes?
Pretty much same as along the same line. So I mean, again, I'm just looking at the EPP map, and Henderson and Thiago are more of a two pivot, but for me, it gives stability. You know, in that, so that when we are transitioned on, if you like, we enter that phase, we have that the two of them there helping to deal with that transition. Whereas typically, what's been happening all season is you end up Fab on his own.
Because we're supposed to have two. That's the point.
Yeah, I know.
That's what's just happening. So this forces that to
and that's what I was going to say. You're telling them, right, you are both doing this role, which means that there's no like high pressing from one of them or anything else. It's like, right, you say here in front and you're blocking the passing lanes and you're being there as a blanket. The bit I felt interestingly looking at the network is that I think I put in the chat that in the 10, whatever you want to call it, the zone, it just behind zone 14, if you like, behind Nunes, Diaz and Jota actually took up the most. They took up the most of the time in that. Costas provides the width on the left, Salah maintains right, and Trent is just over halfway line, level with, not quite level, but in line with Thiago, Henderson, and you got Van Dijk and Matip shifted over. So I thought
you're surprised by Diaz's positioning.
I was, yeah. I didn't, because we chatted many times this season, myself and Si, and all of us saying that Diaz is better when he can isolate a player, and I'm not sure he's great in when he's receiving the ball with several players around him. So to see him come up, and I've had several times to check it, you know, to see him come up in that.
I don't think he's, but I think where he excels and the situation he excels is like when he won the penalty, is driving at players in tight situations, and that's fine. But yeah, but I agree with you in build up, for sure.
Build up, and I think also in this game he made that third man run, if you like. So there was a quick into the front man back, and then Diaz was the one sprinting in behind, and the ball was played in. So that I think he's good at that as well. But I just don't think he's good with players around him. But anyway, no, I think this is a very positive move. I like the stability we got a bit. The caveat is against Rangers.
Yeah, for sure. Si, can I ask you about the combination on the right side? Because we talked for 3 years about the strength of the team is the biggest strength of the team is Trent to Salah. Yeah.
Yeah, and how quickly Trent finds Mo. Yeah,
and if you look at Bart's passing network, it's the thickest line, and it's the thickest line in the team. The connection between Trent and Salah. I mean, this was a bit of a throwback, right? But it makes me wonder, what were we trying to fix in this zone in the first place? I just do not know what problem we were trying to fix.
No, me neither. But Mo was much deeper. Trent was much deeper for this game.
Right.
They had just different jobs. Mo was playing right midfield ostensibly. Yeah. And And if you look at the numbers, he had the most progressive distance carrying because he was coming from so much deeper than everybody else. He had tons of ball recoveries and touches in and around the edge of our box. He was just playing much more like a midfielder. He looked like he was having an absolute ball as well.
I agree. He looked like he looked like he was enjoying it.
Just to back up,
there were six ball carries in this game, the most of any player this season to lead to shot creation actions. So 3 chances created and 3 shots after beating a man. Surely that's got to be a factor of coming from deeper and having a run on them rather than taking the ball with your back to the player and then being able to double team you.
I thought he made 11 progressive passes in this game, the highest in the team. Like that's phenomenal. I mean, and also to bear on the fact that what we're talking about Diaz and Nunes, Diaz received 20 progressive passes with an 80% success rate, and Nunes received 17 with a 74% success rate. So they're like some of the highest numbers we've had all season of receiving progressive passes.
We really do need to caveat that from watching them live. Rangers are shit. Rangers
always the caveat.
Apologies, Scottish listeners.
I'm not even sure Rangers will get out of the Championship.
I don't either. When you said, what did you say? You said it looked like a Championship side chasing the playoffs. I was going to put
7th or 8th in the league.
They just look like Championship.
Yeah, that's shit too.
They didn't offer anything.
And Frankfurt beat him in the new campus, wasn't it? Oh no,
the final. They beat Leipzig in the semi-final. It's historic. Yeah.
They weren't shit last season. They might.
Yeah, they were.
They weren't.
The Europa League has.
Well, if they were shit, like the Caribou.
The Europa League is like the Caribou. It's that people don't want to be in it anyway.
I need to bring some semblance of order to this. Right? Can I ask a sensible question, Rhodesy? Then, right? If Rangers were in the Premier League, where would they finish?
I'd say middle to low. But let me have a look at Club ELO, which is surely
would they avoid relegation?
A better way for us to decide it. Would they avoid? I think just about. Just about.
I think because they got Morelos up front, I think they've got a fair shout of avoiding relegation.
But I think the difference is, we talk about this all the time when we're Champions League, is that they expect to win. So they aren't used to defending the whole time. No. If they're in the Premier League, but by game 10, they just put 10 men behind the ball and hope to not lose 5-0. It's a completely different thing. That we're playing against a really, really weak attacking team.
Yeah. Okay, Rangers are ranked 62, and I think this kind of agrees with both. Wolves are 59th, Leeds are 53rd, Everton 50th. I think that's exactly about.
So they're higher than Notts Forest and Fulham.
So they're ahead of Southampton, Bournemouth, and Fulham. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Relegation battle then potentially. Yeah. Okay. All right. So yes, Rangers are. I say maybe would say rather than would you substitute the word dross for shit?
they are very, very, very much dross. Their best player is Ryan Kent, and if we
isn't it Tavernier?
Ryan Kent's better than him.
No. The best player is Alan McGregor.
I think the best player.
True.
Alan McGregor made one really good save in that game. The rest of the time, the ball was going to hit him. If you'd have put a dummy,
did you see Alan McGregor
put a dribbling dummy in goal, Nunes would have hit it.
Did you see Alan McGregor against Napoli?
Yeah, he played well in that game.
Yeah, he was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
I'm just talking to him in this game. Yeah, he had to make one really good save. He made one decent save from Nunes. He made a really good save from Mo, and the others.
But what he made from Jota was the best one. That was outstanding.
Going in.
It was. It was absolutely amazing.
Here's the bar at best.
Oh, fuck off! It was going in the postage stamp.
Can you replay fuck off? Mate?
Literally just watched it.
Honest to God, that was incredible. That save from McGregor on from Jota. That was unbelievable.
It's funny that the best save came from Mo. That's all I'll say.
Well, you mean the one where he cuts in and he bends it?
Yeah. On the bounce. That was the hard bit.
Yeah.
The other one.
I'd say to back up their lack of attacking intent, right? On the average pass network, as you can see, their furthest players forward are in the centre circle.
Yeah, that's 3 touches in our box.
I know. What I'm saying is they didn't get out of the half.
So,
But I don't think that's lacking intent. I think that's what you get if they're in the champion. If they were in a quality team, they might lack intent. They tried, they just couldn't get out. They were trying to beat our press, and they just didn't have the ability to do it, and which meant we swarmed around them. Hopefully, this leads to confidence. That's what, like, we got ahead. I said before the game, what we need to happen is we need a set piece goal and an early goal, and we got 2 set piece goals and an early goal from a set piece.
Yeah.
Can I just ask Rhodesy for the match summary, please?
Can I just say Rangers as Twitter fans are quite grim as well, Si, so don't be
not as grim as the fans in the stadium. Oh my god.
Oh yeah. My son was saying that. Anyway, match summary. Obviously we only do we'll start with the base. 23 shots to 6. 17 shots in the box to 3. That's higher than our season average, but our season average is kind of off the scale for us. 10 shots on target to 2, which was the second consecutive game that we've done 10 shots on target. So we can't be saying the players aren't hitting the target, but I know I can see what Si's saying if to just put someone in the middle of the goal and save them. Unfortunately, we ended with 2 big chances each. Not convinced about their 2. One of them, Matondo, was cleared off the line by Tsimikas. The other one
somehow cleared off the line. That was unbelievable. That was
unbelievable. So
that was. I don't think we'll see a better defensive clearance all season than that.
But from their 6 shots, they had a shot quality of 7%. More of that, please, Liverpool. We obviously had the pen, so I take that for the XG. For the non-pen, it was 1.6 to 0.5. The models, Cayley's never includes pens, so his 1.8 to 0.5 is a little bit better. StatsBomb was 1.92 to 0.3, so they put even less XG value on Rangers as shots. I'm not even sure they'd have even awarded them a big chance. So yeah, good.
Especially they probably that
doesn't come till the 85th minute.
The Kozlak one is what they would call an edge case in XG modelling, and I think it's a good one. I don't think it was anything like a chance, really, the way it fell to him, and it was blocked, wasn't it? Yeah. So I think StatsBomb probably got a better handle on that than most of the others.
I agree.
The Kozlak chance.
But the biggest factor to me on their big chances is the fact that we're 2-0 with 5 minutes to go. That's when we used to concede big chances.
Yeah. When the game was won. When the game was won and we brought on 5 subs, now
they make a save. Whereas instead of conceding 4 of them before we even have a shot.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. So we've already talked about the problems with evaluating this game because of Rangers. Si, how much of this change and what we did in this change would work against, in quotes, better teams? Would you be happy to see us do the same thing, for example, against Arsenal on the weekend?
Absolutely. Yeah, I absolutely think it will work against. It has as good a chance. We know the other thing isn't working anymore. We literally, I'm fully on board with the fact that we can't physically do it. I remember talking about it in 18-19 about the physical monsters that we had in the team.
Yeah.
Lads that were faster than anybody else and fitter than everybody else, which gave us this physiological advantage.
Yeah.
We no longer have that. We have a structure. The demands of those tactics require some huge capacities that we no longer have. So instead of hoping this way, you've got to revise. You've got to be more conservative with your tactics, and really just the area you expect your players to cover on the pitch, and then you lay out your quilts accordingly that cover all of the bits that you need covering. If you watched last night, we were so compact, and the whole team were moving around. Like at varying points, you could put a 20-meter wide blanket on the whole, all 20 outfield players on the pitch at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's what we need.
Do you think we'd be able to see that blanket against a team like Arsenal, for example?
We absolutely can see that blanket against them as long as you've got the right people pressing at the right times, but you've got much smaller spaces to press in, which it makes it a little bit easier. What you're doing is creating the risk out wide with a switch, and then you're going to go 1v1 wide rather than playing wider and allowing the switch inside and allowing a long ball in between the fullbacks because there's space to play it, and then creating 1v1s there. And that's way more dangerous because it's near a goal.
Okay. And just to remind me again, right? You have no issues with Jota as ostensibly as a 10 because it's not about what we do traditionally as in terms of creating forward and being a creative force from a 10 position. It's more about the negative transition.
Well, if you look at the things that you get from a great footballer, Bobby at his best 4 years ago, he could press like an absolute monster, but then he could also play lots of little intricate 1-2s, and He had unbelievable vision to play somebody in, slip the ball through in between the fullback and the centre backs. We don't have that anymore. Bobby could play those technical passes there, but he doesn't have the capacity to do the pressing. So Jota does pick your poison, but don't plan to have both of those things.
So you're saying what wouldn't work would be, for example, Bobby behind Jota, or Bobby and Jota. Could that work for you?
It could work, but it causes issues that you have to have planned for. That's all. We don't have the perfect solution anymore.
No.
Like watching, I was chatting with my boy at the game last night, and he basically said that there were probably 10 or 12 different occasions, most of which ended up with a Darwin or a Diaz shot from low percentage chances, or the ball rebounding out of the box because of terrible first touches. What you just remembering Sadio and Bobby and Mo at their very best, it just kind of contextualized how incredibly good they were. They had this insane level of athleticism. They were unbelievable in both sets of transition, but in possession also, they would just blam the ball at each other inside the box, and it would just bounce straight to one another at just the angles it would come off at, and it would go where they expected it to, and somebody would shoot. And that Jota absolutely doesn't have the ability to do that. His first touch is just unbelievable. It's just awful. But even Diaz is chasing his first touch. It's not a deliberate thing. And it's not criticizing them as being bad players. They aren't bad players at all. They're wonderful players. They're just not as good as those geniuses that we used to have. So we can't set up a team tactically to expect those things to happen. You have to put players in better positions, in different positions now, to take advantage of the things they are brilliant at, whilst you're hopefully coaching them to expand their game a little bit.
Okay. Same question to you, Barts. How well do you see? Can you see these changes working against better teams, in air quotes, better teams than Rangers?
I think for all the reasons I said, and equally the reasons we said before, the extra stability for me that this system gives you, or the personnel, the shape, however you want to call it, and the discipline that it enforces our midfield to have, I think it puts us in a better position looking at the next three games. I mean, Rangers is not irrelevant, but the next two league games to have a chance.
Do you see the Diaz positioning staying the same against Arsenal? Do you expect him to go back to see him in a much wider position, say, against Arsenal?
I think I think I said before, I don't like him wide. For me, he's got to be...
Oh, sorry, wider than he was in the Rangers game? Or do you think that was just a product of circumstance?
I think that was a product of circumstance.
Because how bad Rangers were.
Yeah, I think the shots he took, like Si was saying, you got to create opportunities to put the best ball into the players that you have, right? So the ball we were trying to play in for Núñez, we did was just a roll in between the channel between the fullback and the centre half for him to run onto and hit it first time. Yeah, that's a typical Núñez chance. For me, he's not going to get that coming from wide. He's going to get that being the front man. The other thing that his first touch isn't great, but it's better. I mean, 76% season rate is miles better than he was having 40s and 50s earlier in the season. I know the numbers were low in terms of minutes, but what he also allows us to do playing that position is to play into him, and then he can quickly knock it back, and we can play that Diaz on the Murray on the deep. So I think he's got to play down that middle in that constricted area to get the best out of him. For me, we've got other wide players to do the work out wide. Don't just concentrate for me.
Sorry, I think we got confused there. You were there. You were talking about Darwin there, right?
Yeah.
So I was saying, in what I said initially was that's great. By the way, was do you expect to see Diaz Diaz is in field against a team like say Arsenal? Would you expect him to go back to a more traditional position where you'd? And I think it's because in the Rangers game.
He was inside,
like Tsimikas was almost in Diaz's position because he was so advanced because of the way Rangers played, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's only one game, isn't it? So it's hard to say. The advantage of Diaz being in there, we spoke about Brighton doing a box. We almost had that box there with Thiago, Henderson, Jota, and Diaz. Yeah?
Right. Yeah.
And then we still had the width from Costa Serrano. We still had the safety. So there are a lot of advantages being there. It's just seeing whether Diaz can actually adapt to having that ball in those areas and still be effective.
Well, to be fair, I should bring this in as well. Patrick in Discord, Patrick A, one of our subscribers, he basically said that he remarked already that he sent some screenshots that what we did against Rangers was very similar to what Brighton did against us. Their shape off there. So you there's a lot you like this, yeah, right?
Yeah, I like this. I mean, I think I've always liked a two-man pivot. That's just the way I am. I prefer that. I prefer having that discipline, stability. I can see the advantage of playing the three, like you said earlier in the day, about why don't we just go back to doing the 4-3-3 that worked for us, and that's great. But I don't think we've got physical capability to do that anymore. Yeah. So therefore, we cannot win games playing the way we've started the season playing. So for me, going forward the way we did against Rangers is the way forward for me.
So quick question to you, Si, again. I can bring you back in. I said in the group earlier on that could we not just get similar results in terms of stability by playing the 4-3-3 with a flatter three in midfield? So you don't think that's an option anymore either?
I don't. I think you need to constrain to the two right-sided eights, and I don't believe Klopp hasn't tried.
Yeah.
So I think this is, we call it constraints-led coaching in work, and I think he has moved the constraints, and now he's completely taken out the safety blanket. So you've no choice. There are two of you. You don't get to go anymore.
Yeah. So we're not going to see the 4-3-3 with either Harvey or Hendo as the right eight anymore.
I don't think we're not going to see it. I just think that this is
not with this personnel, Darth.
Yeah, but what annoyed me most was it showed that Henderson can cover Trent. So I was thinking, well, why haven't you been doing that most of the season?
But Trent wasn't going.
He wasn't going as much.
No, but even when he did go, even on the occasions when he did go, he was there covering that channel.
But he had
already gone on his own.
Yeah, he had a disciplined role to play that.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? He had a
that's what annoyed me.
Anyway. It annoyed me, but it also helps him out because he should be able to play more because he's not asked to do massive load of high speed distance and sprint.
Do you know the he's got very, very high numbers for progressive and creative stuff last night, Hendo. But it was really interesting watching how many times. Let's go. Thiago, I thought Thiago was exponentially better.
Yeah.
Hendo played well. In relation to how he's played so far this season, he had possession control neutral, which is much better than he's been. Thiago had possession control of 11.
Remind us what
That's
possession control is.
It's
possession loss is on the negative. All possessions lost on the negative side. What's on the positive side?
Possessions won. Regains. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
so any header, tackle, interception, recovery, anytime you're gaining possession. So Thiago actually of his 74 touches, he won 32%, 32 of those for himself. So not received a pass for those touches. Like, so last night, what he was doing was he was the one intercepting and winning the ball back. And then with one touch, laying it to Hendo, who was facing the game, facing play, totally without pressure. Of his passes that Hendo had only of how many passes did he make? 59. He had 62 passes. Only 4 of them were pressured.
Yeah.
And so he was actually facing the play. Thiago kept setting him up, and he was facing the attack, and he had time to make 1, 2, 3, 5 touches sometimes before playing a switch pass or a long pass in behind, doing the progressive stuff, but from deep. That stuff kind of worked, but Thiago was the reason why he could do all of that stuff. And if you look back at Diaz's penalty, thank God he did it. I think we might have got picked off otherwise, but the Hendo made the pass to Thiago. He did this lovely little faded pass in behind to Diaz, and he brought it down and dribbled, whatever. But if you roll back 15 seconds, Ryan Kent sent Hendo off for a coffee in the middle of the pitch. Totally caught him out, and Thiago bailed him out by making a slide tackle just in front of the penalty box, which won us the ball, and we broke up the other end, and that happened. So yeah, like if you listen to BT Sport, he was wonderful, but I actually don't think he was that good.
I completely agree. So I mean, Thiago had 5 progressive and 1 key. Hendo had 1 progressive registered. This is with FotMob. So I didn't get the love in. I think.
Well, no, I think it's fair to say he played well for a long time.
He did. I'm not trying to criticize him. I'm saying that I don't think he did all of the stuff differently for saving. Yeah. He had a reduced role, but Thiago allowed that.
I think it's the best he's played since the FA Cup final.
I agree.
Yeah, for sure. But Thiago made sure that he was receiving the ball in an area for him to be effective. So Sai was saying there, Hendo was receiving the ball facing play. Yeah. Hendo is not very good at turning with the ball. Yeah. So Thiago was making sure that he got the ball. He made a simple, dull ball, if you like, but it put Hendo in a position to be the most effective player that he can be. And that's why Thiago, for me, was the better midfielder out of the two.
Yeah. Any other key stats or observations that we want to make on this match? Distances and sprints, Si. Did we win it?
I just muted again from rambling on too much and not having
Rhodesy
to chat. We won. We won all of the running last night, but 114 to 112. We won high speed by 360 meters. They were just, we're
114 is not too bad, is it? 114. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
A ball was in play quite a lot. I think that was another thing. But yeah.
Rhodesy, any key stats observations that you've got that we need to on Rangers?
No, I was just looking at the pressures, seeing as I've not done the collection yet. Thiago had the most pressures in the team, which was good, followed by, and this is the key, and this is going to be interesting to compare when I do it, Diaz with 12, Nunes with 10, Salah with 10, and Jota with 10. What a nice little balance that is.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. It's going to be really interesting to see the differences in the heat maps and stuff like that with a 4-2-3, especially if we do this for a number of games. It's going to be really interesting, Rhodesy, to get.
Are we going to call it 4-2-3-1 or 4-4-2? Or we just
4-4-2? I think 4-4-2. Yeah.
Traditional.
Yeah. Do we want to have a quick word about Darwin Nunes? I think he is quite possibly the strangest data player I've ever seen. To say he is an output monster, is an understatement. I thought Naby Keita was a data player, but I think Darwin Nunes is taking it to a new level, Rhodesy.
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of messages from Liverpool fans giving him lots of stick recently, and I think it's because they're suffering from the Haaland disease. I think they're comparing outcome with process, and for me, and I hope on this podcast, I've always been consistent. The the process is all that matters, Dan, and you've had a look at his process numbers. You've included all the data that we've got so far, which isn't much, but you've included friendlies.
You have to include You have to include friendlies to get to 500 minutes.
To get to 500 minutes. So again, we still don't know. But even in the smallish sample that we've got in the Premier League, he'd have 5 big chances. So he is attempting a big chance more often than Haaland. Let's just put that in perspective. Haaland's gone on the biggest streak of goals possibly ever seen in the Premier League.
Well, he's on track to break Dixie Dean's all-time top flight record.
He also got another 2 tonight. So, but he is converting at over 40%. So that is coming down. But I had a look at his Dortmund numbers, and I think he converted last season at something like 27, 28% in the league. So that is like, just for context, Diego Costa, I think, was the highest
right. So, no, but let's talk about Darwin Núñez though, Rhodesy, because that's what I did ask about. So let's leave Haaland, right? So you think the only reason people are getting grief on him is because of Haaland?
Well, I think that the arguments I've had with fellow Liverpool fans and obviously other United fans who are calling him all sorts of donkey names and things like that, is the first touch issue. Okay, but we've talked about Diaz and Jota's first touch in already in this podcast. But looking at his underlying numbers, which are shots in the box, touches in the box, shots on target, it's all good, Dan. I'm not seeing the issue. The issue is just a bit of cold streak. That's all I'm seeing. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, I don't even think it's a cold streak because
6.9% conversion rate.
Oh yeah, that's cold. But I'm just going to say the only reason I don't think it's a cold streak because his expected goals on target is high. So
yeah.
And if his expected goals on target figure was low, I would say he's missing the target a lot, but when it's high, it tells me that there are a series of decent saves. And much to what Sai is going to disagree with this, that there are a series of when you got a small sample. My view is this is the old Samuel Eto'o one. So if you just get the ball on target and hit it really hard, you're going to score a load of goals. And the issue is when you've only got a 500-minute sample, or if you exclude friendlies, 344 minutes of competitive football, that is not enough of a sample. Things can happen by chance in a sample of that size. I mean, Barts will talk about this till the cows come home. But
we should all talk about that.
Yeah, but all I wanted to say was, right,
as a player,
if you try to broaden the sample to take out randomness, right, then that brings in the Leipzig game where he scores 4 goals in 45 minutes, right? And if you include every minute he's played, he's averaging 1.1 goals per 90 minutes. But people say, well, it's a friendly, it doesn't count, right? Well, it doesn't really, But all I'm trying to make a point is illustrated here with the data. But so he's 7.6 shots right from the first friendlies he played, right through to now. He's maintained at 7.6 shots per 90 minutes, which is I've never seen anything like that. But we can talk about
it's second behind Haaland.
Yeah. We can talk about whether it's good for the team or not, once we've got a bigger sample. But Sai, where do you stand on Núñez?
I'm less convinced than you.
What's the criticism, though?
Does it have to be criticism? The Darth citing friendlies, for God's sake. This is un-Darth-like for a start.
I'm just trying to broaden the sample. That's all.
Well, we got sample size from Champions League, or
we got 344 minutes of competitive, right? So
you can't even use that as for data. It's 344 minutes.
So tell us then, because we're only trying to use data rather than opinion.
But my point is that we can't really, if we're only using Liverpool, you can't really have any data. The data can only be anecdotal because there's no data to go along. If you look at him. If you look at players like Robbie Fowler, who was famous for being a great finisher, he hits the side netting. So far, Darwin doesn't come close to side netting. He hits the ball right down the middle.
But he did last season.
Hit the side netting. No, he was. If you go back and look at the goals,
yeah, he hits it really hard and on target. Like I said, which is why I said Eto'o. He just keep. Yeah. Get it between the frame of the goal and hit it really hard.
I'm not asking him to be Haaland. I'm just asking him to score.
Okay.
He takes a lot of shots, and if he's taking shots, then other players aren't taking those shots. You've got to be the best. You've got to be the best finisher in the club if you're going to be taking the volume of shots that he's taking.
Yeah, I think there's a legitimate question to say: Does having that, but the team's overall level of shots is still high. But yeah, like you said, the level of shot quality across the team was poor last night.
If you've got him and Diaz taking shots every time they get the ball, then the whole team's shot volume is going to be high. It's the shot quality that's the problem. He currently has the only Virgil and Matip of the team have a lower post-shot XG per shot.
But you just said the data is irrelevant because of the sample size.
I'm saying but he's taken a lot of shots so far.
But he's also had 5 big chances, which is more frequent than Haaland.
Which he keeps missing.
And
because he's hitting them down the middle. I'm not saying he's a rubbish player. I'm saying
hang on,
if you are using data, the data doesn't just back him up because he has lots of shots.
Hang on a sec, mate. FOTMob, which is Opta, right? I've got him as 3.97 expected goals on target from 12 shots. That's good. That's really good.
Excellent.
I have him total. He's got 1.54 expected goals on target so far, and I use their data for every game.
You use FOTMob?
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Someone's read it wrong.
Yeah, somebody's typed it. One of us has typed it in wrong because I got 3.97 from that.
3.97. That's 60 for each shot.
Yeah, I got.
That's unlikely, Darth, given that last night was not close to that high.
Yeah, he had 0.73 against Rangers. This is great radio. 0.74 against Ajax, 0.07 against Everton, 1.17 against Fulham, 1.26 against City.
Yeah,
that's 3.9. So anyway, it is what it is. All right. So what we'll do is there's going to be plenty of time in the World Cup when we're going to have a bigger sample to talk about.
But can we just try and use some predictive analytics here, Si? So what's your goal spread on him for the season then? Because I think he's gonna hit form being the operative word that I don't think applies, but he's just going to start scoring because he's doing all the process correct. So I'm going 20-25.
You think he's going to get 25 goals?
Between 20 and 25 in all comps, if he plays enough minutes.
I think I said he was going to get 15 and 18 before the season started.
That's fair enough.
We're 22% into the season.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I thought I was with the Euros. I thought he'd get 20s, but bearing in mind we're now that percent of the season and he's got what, 2 goals, 1 goal, 2 goals.
Yeah, he lost.
So I'm guessing, side you're not playing Nunes against Arsenal.
No, I'm saying play Darwin as much as you like because he cost 100 million quid, so you've got to have some kind of faith in him.
No, but you want to get a result. We need to get a result. So
I'd play him for different reasons. I'd play him against Arsenal.
Okay.
I don't think he's in our best team right now. No,
I don't play him against City.
I think both Bobby and Jota get stiffies playing against Arsenal.
So you play Jota and
Bobby.
And Jota and Bobby in the middle in a 4-4-2.
Yeah.
Okay. Why didn't you just say but you said yes. I said, would you play Darwin against Arsenal? You said yes.
I'm saying I've no problem with him playing at all.
Oh right, you've got no problem with him playing, right?
No, not at all.
Would you play Mo as at 10, Si, against City?
I thought Mo was tremendous on the right. I'm fine with him doing that thing.
I
think we're probably a better team if Jota's playing on the right where he played for Wolves, and Diaz is on the left, and you got Mo. I just think you've got your best players nearer to goal.
Yeah.
If we're putting the idea out that Darwin is our best is one of our best players. Him and Mo play well together. They link up well together. Mo keeps slinging him in.
Yeah, that's what I was saying against City. Do you play Mo in the 10 inverted commas and Nunes up front and Jota right and Diaz left?
I feel like we're talking FIFA games here. I don't.
Yeah,
I
no.
don't think. I don't think that
I don't think
Klopp
Klopp's
is
doing
going
that.
to do that.
No, he's not
He
doing
didn't
that.
last night, and he's changed the system. Mo is playing on the right wing, and he played really well on the right wing. Just carry on doing that thing.
I agree.
Final question. We talked all season long about the Elliott role. Si, what is the Elliott role in the system? Is it the 10? Is that it for Harvey?
I think don't play him.
You think he's going to go back to the under-23s for a while?
I don't know. Do we even do that anymore? I don't think we do it.
Well, that's why Artur went. He went to the under-23s, didn't he?
I think Artur's gone. Yeah, Artur's gone to sit on some rocking chair in Brazil somewhere.
Is he injured?
He wasn't even in the squad. So he's just done. He's just not good enough, apparently. But I think Harvey is just going to be rotated in when.
So he's not. Just hang on. Are you saying Artur is not injured?
Artur's not injured, no.
I think Harvey will be a change. Like, that we've got 5 subs, right? So Harvey will come on to save legs somewhere in the front 4 or the midfield 3. In this,
well, he could play the Salah role, couldn't he? In this system.
For me, yeah, but he's not. The problem is he hasn't.
No, as a sub, he could play as a sub.
For sure. It was interesting in this game. He was classified as an AM. On F brief. I know it's F brief, but generally the positions are quite interesting, and he was classified as an AM. But I
right wing was Elliott.
I don't think he's gonna. I don't think you'll see him start much now.
Okay. Right, we will be back on Tuesday. No, we won't be back on Tuesday. It's the Wednesday. It's a Sunday for the Arsenal game, right? And then it's which day for the Rangers? Is it?
Wednesdays are Rangers, isn't it?
Oh, so we will be back next Tuesday to go through the Arsenal game, and in the meantime, we will be putting the Rangers press analysis in Discord. But until then, up the Reds.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.